Hello everyone, I'm going to go over some basics of the bandsaw, talk about operation and safety. The bandsaw is a great tool for cutting wood a little more efficiently than a handsaw. And I'm going to show you 4 types of cuts and in the process go over some safety features. First thing you need to know is this bandsaw has these little doors that open where the blade is stored. Those need to be closed, and they always are, but you should just double check that every time you use the bandsaw. The next thing is, if you're ever using this space, you want to make sure that you have a good clear space and your friends aren't crowding your area. When you're ready to cut, you might have a piece of wood. 3/4 inch thickness is a very common wood that you'll use here. It's the most common size wood in the shop. So I want to make sure that my fence is high enough for my wood. And the way I do that is I untwist, and then this little spinner knob in the back can raise or lower the fence. And you just want about a finger width space above your piece. Now that I have that, I'm going to lock it just a little snug, and then I'm ready to go. Before I go though, I want to make sure you understand where your hands can and cannot go. This little black circle is kind of the zone where you're getting dangerous. So you want to stay away from getting your hands too close to that blade. So as long as your hands stay outside of the black circle, you're safe. I'm going to start by doing a cross cut. This is one of the 4 cuts. That just means perpendicular to the wood. And if I draw a little line that I'm going to follow, there's my cut line, and I'm almost ready to begin. Make sure I'm standing on the grip tape down low. That keeps my feet secured. And I have space. I'm going to put my goggles on. When I turn it on, I never want the wood to be touching the blade. That'll jam it. So I can set my piece back here and flip this little red switch out. And once I turn that on, I'm going to start my cut. Just watch what I do. There's 2 things I wanted you to notice when I did that. Number 1 is I had a firm grip on the wood. The blade will always push it down, so that helps you stay safe. The other thing is when I got close to the end, I kind of slowed down just a little because I don't ever want to be leaning in so that when it goes through, I have a little follow through. So just slow down at the end. The next cut is called a rip cut. And it's the same as a cross cut. It just means that your cut is with the grain. And wood is a lot stronger with the grain. It's kind of like if you ever pulled paper this way, it's hard, but if you rip it, it's easy. So you just have to push a little harder, and you're going to get something called drift. That's when the blade kind of turns a little bit under pressure, and it looks like you're going crooked, but you're really following your line. So here we go. See if you notice anything about this cut. All right, the thing I was hoping you would notice is that as I got close, I let go, and I only had one hand on my piece of wood. That's totally acceptable. That's actually safer than getting your other finger too close. So you're always allowed to do that when you're controlling the wood, as long as you're staying safe and no part of your hands are ever going to follow through to the blade. The next type of cuts are curves. Now this can't do very big curves at all, but it can do a little bit. So I'm going to show you just a couple different curves to show you how you might do them. So you see those 2 curves. That's a real strong curve. This is a subtle curve. Subtle curve is almost identical to straight cutting. You're just kind of turning the wood to follow your line. So I'm going to do a slightly different cut. I'm going to do a curve that's too big for me to make. So I'm going to take several passes to make that curve. The final cut I'm going to do is called a bump cut. And a bump cut, let's see, let's find a piece of wood. A bump cut is when you are going inside and you don't have an out. So there's no way for your blade to come out. I'm going to clear all my debris off the plate. And all I'm going to do when I do this cut is literally called a bump cut because I bump the line and I go back out. So notice how I do this. I'm going to hold it firm and just make several passes. Eventually, I got enough space that I could turn my piece of wood to run the blade through perpendicular. And so those are basically the 4 main types of cuts that you'll do on here. You might need to adjust the fence. And there are some other more advanced features that we'll go over once you really start to use this and sort of pass a little safety test. But this will speed you up. It's an efficient tool, and many woodworkers consider this to be the most valuable tool in the shop. Hope you enjoyed.